Welcome back to the Exceptional Sales Leader podcast, and it is my absolute pleasure to speak to this person coming in all the way from, well, you said you're from Toronto, Ontario, in Canada, but you're
Yep.
actually on a lake at the at the moment. You just showed me the video of the lake, or show me the snapshot of the lake. It's one of the biggest lakes I've ever seen. I couldn't even see there was land on the other side. But Laura Armstrong, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on the podcast.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here today.
Now, I must full disclosure, it's late on a Monday here in Melbourne, and you're coming in from Canada, and it's very early on a Monday morning. So I greatly appreciate you doing this. It's about 7 a.m. there. But
Yep.
you're also telling me you've got your coffee, you've closed the bathroom door in the background
Right, we're
as
good.
well. But you're also telling me you've got a few days of R&R, and yet you're still working, which is which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's funny. When I've realized as I've gotten older that I really just only want to do things that bring me joy, right? And so I just I feel like that aligns with who I am. I mean, we all do the grunt work we don't really like that much because we know we need to do it. We know we need to do it to scale. And that's a necessary part of our lives. But I mean, I spent yesterday literally sitting on the lake and went for a walk in a provincial forest and did things I wanted to do, right? And I think
Nice.
sometimes because our lives are so crazy that we forget about that stuff. And it
Mm.
was really interesting. I was on this training, this is a couple months ago. John is the guy who did this training, and one of his slides, this is fascinating, this is why I'm mentioning it. So one of his slides, he's like, this is a society, this is us as human beings, we're growing, we're evolving, and this is society.
Yeah.
And society for the first time is evolving so much faster than us that we're in a constant state of overwhelm. And I think now
Mm.
more than ever we have to pay attention to that so
Mm.
that we're still having a good quality of life. And I think sometimes that can get lost. So thanks for pointing that out.
Well, it's even simple things, Laura, like taking a walk, as you said, you said you brought your puppies up with you as well, and just
Yeah.
spending some time with them, free of distractions from things like this, the old iPhone or the Samsung, whichever is your
Shh, it was still in my pocket, but don't tell anybody. Yeah.
okay, whatever your product of choice is. But there's so much information coming at us every single moment, every single day, and the expectation is we're always quote unquote on. So, and particularly as leaders, we need to have decompression time. We need to have reflection time. So, hey, looking forward to this conversation because you've been in business for a number of years, and you've got a very interesting background, which I'd love to delve into. You're just sharing with me before we press record that you have been a commodity trader. You're a three-time world champion martial artist. You've worked as a business strategist. You've worked as a global speaker. You work with business owners, corporates, all sorts of different people. Martial artists, you've created champions as well. And so there's a lot of stuff that we can delve into. You're also the owner and the founder of Wealth Mastery Systems as well. So that's the name of your business. So before we jump into the conversation, and as I shared with you, I don't have a list of questions to ask. So this could go anywhere, and this is just how we roll on this
Who
particular podcast.
knows? Yeah.
Love to, for the listeners' benefit, just a little bit of your background in terms of what led
Sure.
you to go into down the path that you had. What led you to do things like martial art, and what has ultimately led you to now do what you do today in terms of helping people and helping organizations.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 40 years, and it was really interesting because like in school, I was always the fat kid in school. Like I was always the one who was overweight and I was bullied. And so as I moved through to high school, I started getting into I realized how strong I was. So as I got more into weightlifting, I was doing powerlifting, I was doing bodybuilding. And when I finished school, I started looking at that really seriously. And
Yep.
so I started competing, and I won our provincial competition. And I didn't realize, but I was scouted by the IFBB, the International Federation of Bodybuilders. And so they approached me. I mean, I was only like 18, 19 at the time. I
Yeah.
mean, it was decades ago. And they're like, look, you've got the genetics. We want you to compete at an international level, but you're going to have to take the drugs. And this is back in the days when like steroids and all those things were not regulated. I mean, it's still not, but
Yeah.
it was the Wild West, let's put it that way. And I was like an 18, 19-year-old woman, and I was like, thanks, but no thanks. Because that stuff never goes away, right?
Yeah.
And you can't reverse that. So I mean, I'm still like averse to going into gyms. I did so much of it for so long. But I mean, and so I thought, oh, well, what do I want to do now? Because I was always so active. And then, those booklets you get, I don't know if you have that in Australia, where it's like the continuing education, like
Yeah.
night courses you can take for like 10
Yes.
weeks.
Yeah.
So I sign up for this course in Aikido, and I think, oh, always love martial arts. I love Bruce Lee. I love kicking ass. Like I like kicking, punching, all that, right? And so I go to this class, and I didn't know like much about Aikido. I just thought it was all the same thing. And so we're doing stances and rolling, and it's all very Zen, really kind of cool. And my teacher is like 4 foot nothing. She comes up to my armpit, and she's a powerhouse, right? And she's like, so we go through the class. I'm like, oh, this is kind of boring, but maybe it's going to get better. And she's like, does anybody have any questions? Of course, my hand goes up, and I'm like, she goes, yes. I'm like, well, I'm just really curious. When are we getting to the kicking and punching? Right. And she looks at me with this look in her face, and she's like, oh, one of those. Right. And so she looks at me, she goes, well, that's not really what Aikido's about. It's all about stepping off the line and redirecting your partner's energy. And I'm thinking in my mind, I'm like, well, that's boring. Right. And then so I'm like, but there was something about it that was attractive to me, to be able to generate and stand and grow my power through a martial art that would also change me from inside out. And by
Hmm.
that, I mean, connecting to your center was something that was foreign to me. And so I started Aikido, and this was the beginning of my journey. A couple years in, I got into more competitive Filipino martial arts, which is where I competed in the full contact weapons fighting. And my journey started there. And when I started to compete, always did Aikido. I ended up training for over 30, almost 30 plus years. And I reached the rank of fourth Dan. I was almost fifth Dan, but I had a motorcycle accident. And so I had to stop practicing. I just had too much pain in my back at that
Yeah.
point, before I could heal myself. And so when I started competing, I realized, because of my Aikido training, I needed something extra. And I don't know if we have time, but I can tell you the story of winning my first gold medal and why it's
Yeah.
relevant. So, so I was competing, and I trained probably for almost 8 years. I competed at an international level. I won at regionals, country level. And so I had competed internationally probably about 8 years. I only ever won silver, bronze, silver, bronze, silver, bronze. I just could not crack the gold. And so when I started training, I became a holistic practitioner because I needed an extra edge. And so by extra edge, when you train for a competition, I don't know if you know anything about professional sports, it's about a 9 month to a year ramp up to hit
Mm.
those 2 days of competition. So your diet has to be good, your training, your mindset, your everything
Yeah.
has to be in alignment, and you have to take care of yourself. And so I did a lot of these modalities where most people didn't, to create strength here so that I could actually win that gold. I decided, I mean, darn, I did the whole Rocky thing. I was like, I was watching my videos. I was like, what the hell is wrong with me? Why can't I, what the hell? So now we go to competition, and I'm like, this is it. This is like my 9th, 10th year. I'm going to win.
Hmm.
We get to the Philippines, Manila, Philippines, which is where we're competing, and a couple things happen. Our coach steals our money. Okay. There are 12 of us on the team at this point. And he says, I'm no longer coaching you, and leaves because we caught him stealing money.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's 12 of us. We're on the other side of the world, well, the other side of the world. And we're like, what the hell? So, of course, I'm the chief cook and bottle washer troublemaker. I gather everybody around. I'm like, okay, so are we going to DQ, or are we going to go home with gold? Because I was like, I was not waiting.
Hmm.
DQ means you disqualify, you don't compete, you just go
Yeah.
home. And they're like, no, we want to go home with gold. So I'm like, and so we do our little cheer and we go out and so we go out to our rings, and fights are 1 minute long,
Okay.
3 rounds in each fight. So day goes on. I'm in the gold medal round. I probably had about 21 fights at this time. I'm exhausted. But you train for to make sure you have gas in the tank for that gold medal round. I'm like,
Yep.
this is it. And I'm tired. So the first 2 rounds go, they're pretty even. I thought I did well, but it was even. And I look across for the third round and I'm like, there's my team. Like, I always get emotional when I think about this because I remember that feeling. And they're like over there and they're like cheering for me. They're like, Lori, you got this. This is it. You're going to get your gold. And like, they were all there for me. Right. Like, and so, they're jumping up and down and like, I'm just trying to get my breath at this point. Right. And so you only have a 30-second rest between rounds. So it was the longest 30 seconds, but the best 30 seconds of my life. So the whistle blows and the third round goes, and I'm so tired, but I realize my opponent is more tired than I am. And I'm like,
Ah.
what the hell? I'm like, I'm going to go for it. So I must have sucked all of their energy out of them because I got this like recharge for this last minute and I went after it and I gave it everything. Right. So the 1 minute, longest minute of my life, the whistle blows, the round is over. And the ref is standing there and he's holding our hands and my hand goes up and he says, world champion winner. And I was like, and I was frozen. And I look across again, and there is my team, and they're like cheering and they're crying. They're crying. I start crying. Everybody's crying. Right. And I was like, I can't, and I was frozen. I was like, I can't believe this just happened. I've been waiting
Mm.
10 years for this. And it was that moment of realizing that the missing piece was the support. I had never leaned on them that way.
Yeah.
I had never, I always felt it was taking advantage, right? But it
Hmm.
wasn't. They were giving freely, and I was now receiving that freely.
Mm.
And that was a very pivotal point in my life,
Mm.
winning that. And to be a high achiever, because I've been a high achiever most of my life, and I know what that means. So when you're in sales and you're struggling for that sale, I know that feeling. And to get beyond that feeling into the like, they're just going to need what I have and that's it, and not be attached to the outcome. It's a gift to get to that point. And so having that support is crucial. So if we do nothing in this podcast today, it would be like, don't forget that piece that can make you the best at what you do.
It's a really interesting story, and thank you so much for sharing that. Because as you were talking, I'm thinking, okay, you've got 8 to 10 years worth of training to get this particular opportunity. You're then at the opportunity where you could actually excel because you've built up to that. It's taken you 8 to 12, 8 to 9 months to get ready for that particular competition, and then you find that your your coach is pilfering money, right? Which is thinking, well, there's like from a hero's journey point of view, there's one of your
Yeah, let's have
greatest
more
challenges, right?
adversity.
Thinking, my God. But at that point, you had a choice to make. You could either turn around and go home, or you could move forward and use that potentially as fuel. Not that I don't know whether you used it as fuel, but you made a
Oh yeah.
decision. But then the support network that you had around you, and when people look at whether it be a sales role or a sales leadership role or as a martial artist or even any sort of individual excellent performer, people can very easily look at them and think, oh, there goes a super individual without having any contemplation of the support team that
Correct.
sits behind them that enabled them to get there. So I think that's a really important message to leave people with, that it's not success is not an individual game, it's a team game.
Correct. And I did it 10 years later. I won 2 more just to see if I could. And at that time, I was also training champions. So
Yeah.
it was all of us together.
Yeah.
It was a different dynamic, and my body's like, what the hell are you thinking? Because it was all injury management. But after that, I retired. I was like 42 when I won my last two. And the
Wow.
beauty was I had to fight the 18-year-olds. I mean, that's a whole other story. But I
Whew.
mean, it was just, it's just like, so now I have the formula. Like I know, and all of the stuff that I learned and I taught and I coached on is applicable to business,
Yeah.
which is why I know that we can all get to where we want to go. It's just we need the proper path,
Mm.
right? Yeah.
So and along the way, were you also a commodity trader along the way?
Yeah.
So
So
that
while I
was
was,
your full-time role, and you were training
I
separately.
was it was a full-time role, and I was a commodities trader for a couple decades. I did logistics, I did all of that stuff. And I was the only woman. I was the only woman in a lot of stuff in my life, on the trading desk. And, there were some good times in that job, but it was also super toxic. And it's interesting because until I was packaged out, which was crappy, by the way, I didn't realize how toxic it was
Yeah,
until I wasn't in it.
yeah,
And what are we willing to put up with because we think that we need that regular paycheck
mm,
to survive instead of actually living in our greatness? So one part of me was living in my greatness, doing all the things I loved, but the other was still in that 9 to 5 grind, right? Which I was grateful for, but there was that fear of like being on your own, right? And like I didn't have anybody to support me. Like I was an independent woman, and
mm,
so it was risky, but until we take the risk and we step out into our power, then we're never going to realize how many people have taken little pieces of it away on along the way and how to get it back.
yeah. And so when you look at that, you were, I guess, expressing yourself in an elite field such as martial art and becoming
Right.
a world champion. So really grabbing hold of your greatness and being exceptional at what you do there. But you also had one foot in the, I guess, the 9 to 5 grind as you referred to, and thinking, well, that's maybe a level of security.
Yeah.
Now looking back, did you feel I guess that combination um, helped with martial art, or did it kind of hold you back a little bit?
I think actually, Darren, I think it was a bit of both. So I think it held me back from truly being who I wanted to be. But on the other side of things, it challenged me
Mm,
to not put up with the stigma of norms.
yeah,
And so that made me stronger in that way. Like I wasn't
yeah,
willing to settle for the crap. I was
yeah.
not. And so it was a bit in both ways, but I'll tell you, I wouldn't change a thing about what happened and how I was packaged out. And I got a lawyer that was not okay.
Yeah.
And when it happened, I just decided I was 42 at the time. I think I told you this. I'm 58 now.
Yeah.
I thought, that's it. I'm retired at 42. I'm only doing things that make me happy, help people, make me boatloads of money because I love money so much.
Yeah.
And I take a lot of flack for that, which I love because it
Yeah.
means that I'm pushing people's buttons and I'm getting them to move. And and what I didn't realize is people did not have that same relationship with money that I did.
Hmm.
I mean, I had a lot of trauma as a small child and a young woman. And because I was a holistic practitioner, that became a big part of my life. I was able to heal all that and use it as
Yeah.
fuel to inspire others, but not just in martial arts, but in business as well, because I
Hmm.
feel like it's really important for us not to let our limiting beliefs take hold of who we are and make sure we're
Hmm.
aligned with what we're doing so that we have a good money mindset.
And that's exactly what you need in business, and it's certainly what you need in sales. You said something also really interesting, which I'd love you to delve into. You mentioned that you were disassociated from the outcome.
Yeah.
So talk
Yeah.
about that, because what's really interesting about this is
Mhm.
you speak to elite performers in any industry, and they all say exactly the same thing, right? They
Mhm.
all
Yeah.
achieve greatness because they achieve whether it's the world championship or the top one or two in their field, but they
Mhm.
all have this perspective that they disassociate from the pressure of having to get the perfect outcome. And yet, because they do that, they are more often than not achieve what others would consider to be the quote unquote perfect outcome. So
Yeah.
have you been able to delve into that from a psychological point of view?
Sure, sure. There's two pieces of that. So high achievers, why I love working with them is it's a very different conversation. They're never going to admit there's something wrong.
Yeah.
Never, because then that would be weakness. And that is the ego, and that's just the human side of who we are.
Mm,
But the conversation can be around, what does next level look like for you? And what do we need to do to get you there? And because I've got so much experience, and I don't mean in an ego way, it's just if one thing doesn't work, I know something else will. I've never not had results.
yeah.
Okay. And it's all just it's all just depending on what the person's willing to do and then what is getting in the way, really
Mm,
is what we're talking about here. And so being a high achiever, it's important. There's three things that actually high achievers, you'll notice that they have in common. They are, they're obsessive learners. So they are constantly learning. And they want to be the best in their business, in their health, in their life. So they're always looking for that, and they're also super curious.
mm,
So if those are the three things that high achievers like to excel at, and those are the things that keep them moving. So for people who want to be high achievers and not be attached to the outcome, it's very simple, and it takes work because in our day-to-day grind, it depends where you are in your journey. If you're just trying to get through the day and make the rent this month, it's a very different conversation than I've made my first million and I want to
mm.
move to my next 10M or 1B, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So to not be attached to the outcome is to think about, where do I want to go and is it achievable? Because I
Mm,
think a lot of the time we have big hopes and dreams, and in that way it can sabotage us because those hopes and dreams sometimes aren't achievable. So what is achievable? Maybe 5K is a big achievement for somebody,
yeah.
right? And so when you get on that call and you're offering your products, the one tip I would give you when you're talking to someone, I'm sure people have talked about this before, is I always put it out there, whatever happens will be for the highest good of the conversation,
Hmm.
or how does it get better than this? Or what else is possible here? Those are the three things that I use, the mantras that I use before I get on that call.
Hmm.
And then I know whatever's going to happen on that call is the right thing. And so that is a way to build confidence.
Hmm.
It's also a way to make sure that if the person says no, which usually means not right now, but we take it as a no and it's a negative. The thing you have to understand is people are going to make a decision. And if you're getting them to make a decision, you've done your job.
Yeah.
So whether the decision is yes or no,
Mm,
it doesn't matter, right? And so they've made a decision. So if you wanted to move them favorably into the yes category, then you need to be willing to do three things. The first is build trust.
mm.
It's the number one thing. Nobody cares about anything else but trust. Be willing to be vulnerable. And I'm not talking your deepest, darkest secrets here. Like I'm talking about give them something about yourself, your journey, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And third, be willing to be space for them and let them talk so you just listen. If you do those three things and it becomes a conversation instead of a sales pitch, you cannot lose. And if you do, it's not about you, and
No.
therefore you need to be attached to the outcome.
It's really interesting, and you're using a lot of the principles that Aikido uses as well in terms of
Mm,
just the energy flow. And
yeah,
it's like if it is to be, it'll be, and let's just go with it. But it's how you can actually leave people with what we call the impression of increase, that they feel better of having had the conversation with you. And if they don't
yeah,
end up purchasing that product or taking it further, then at least they've left with an education, you've got a connection. But you might have actually planted a seed for a future transaction, or maybe somebody that they know has had an
correct.
experience that they'll come back and it'll happen.
And the other thing I want to say about that is, and you probably talked about this already, is I don't force the sale because it could end up being not someone I want to work with
Yeah.
or someone who doesn't need me. And then I
Yeah.
end up having to pull them uphill through the mud. And that's just like, here, let me give you your money back.
Yeah.
Right. Like, so that's a no for me. Right. Because I only work, and I'm very clear about this. And some people are like, well, that's kind of bitchy. I'm like, no, actually, I only work with people who want to move. Because if you don't want to move, you don't want to work with me. Right.
Yeah.
I'm just, like I create champions. That's what I do. So if you're willing to be the best in your business and make a lot of money, then I'm the one for you. If not, it's okay.
Yeah.
I'll still support you.
Yeah.
I'll still be your biggest cheerleader, but I'm not going to pull you uphill. Just telling you the truth. Yeah.
Well, and when you talked before about the trust, vulnerability, and let them talk, that's the vulnerability part, but it's also building trust. And it's also saying to the person potentially who could be a client or a customer, hey, I just don't work with anybody. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I'm prepared to work with you if you're prepared to meet this criteria. If not, it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I can refer you to somebody else.
And it's shocking for people because they're expecting the pitch fest, right? Like,
Yes.
and they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, it's okay. I said, but I'm happy to help you build your business. Maybe who are your ideal partners or who's your
Mm,
ideal client, right? Like maybe that's better for you.
yeah.
And the other thing too is when people get on a call with me, regardless, I'm going to give them some tools that they can use to clear their money stuff,
Mm,
right? And
yeah.
if they use those tools, I know it will happen because I know what I do works. I'm very good at what I do. And I own that 150%. And I don't own it in an ego way, but I know that I can create change because when I do that, they're going to make impact, elevate their revenue, and
Yeah.
earn what they deserve, right?
So I don't want this to sound like an ignorant question, but how do you do that? Because there'll be a lot of salespeople, there'll be a lot of sales leaders listening to this are saying, wow, we're really behind on our sales target. We've just come out of in the financial year in Australia, it ended in June. So we're in the first quarter of the new financial year and we're already behind, right? So it's this limiting mindset that perhaps they've
Mhm.
based this year on what they've done last year plus a little bit of incremental, but their thinking is stuck in a little bit last year plus a little bit, right? What's holding them back? Is there
So,
is there
yeah.
themes that you've identified, whether it be an entrepreneur running their business trying to scale, or a sales team in an organization trying to get better, trying to penetrate a market? What tends to be common themes that's holding people back, but also teams back?
So I would say there's two things, and I say it because it's in the sales arena. It's a little bit unique. So the first is communication.
Mm,
So I'm trained in communication, and if you're not speaking to someone's values, they're not going to move. And so that would be the number one thing. I mean, I do it all the time for sales teams. As soon as they realize that what someone's values are, and they can have a conversation in their language instead of their own language, the whole dynamic changes. You already
yeah.
know this. The second would be the limiting belief around their leadership, their mindset about getting to the deliverable or whatever it is they're needing. So for that kind of stuff, I do a lot of what are called clearings. I have probably 50 things that I offer people. If one thing doesn't work, then I do something else. There could be stuff that they, as a person, have limiting beliefs that lead back to their childhood, right? And
Mm,
so we go back there, we fix that. Because in the end, it all comes down to them producing and money,
mm,
right? And so if you think of John Maxwell's pyramid of wealth, on the bottom is money, there's relationships, knowledge, and purpose. And I work in a lot of those areas, but if it's a pyramid and your money piece is not strong,
mm,
your pyramid is not going to be strong. So you need to
mm,
go back and fix that. And so as a sales leader, money is always back here in the back of the mind. Am I going to make my numbers this month? Am I going to make my sales? And if you can get out of that hamster wheel, because that's a cycle and
mm.
that's a limiting belief cycle, it's also sabotaging yourself every single month because that's all you think about every single
Yeah.
month,
Yeah.
pushing people to produce instead of being in the moment of what is possible.
Yes.
And so if they can release those limiting beliefs, like I said, through clearings, I do a lot of cord cutting. I do like all these alternative things, but I only do things that produce practical results
Mm.
because it's all I care about. I don't do woo-woo stuff that's going to make them feel yummy inside. I mean, it does, but getting them to the result is all I care about. Right. So I'm just being
And
honest.
And that's, I mean, and when you say woo woo stuff, it's like, hang on, don't you do timeline therapies and stuff like that?
I do some of that stuff, but I do it in a way that's practical.
Yeah, because
It's all related.
well,
Yeah.
all that we are today, often stuff happens back when we were in the
Yes,
formation years,
correct.
right? So we've heard a mother, a father, a grandparent, a teacher, somebody who was a person of authority say something which was at the time maybe an innocent comment, but it went straight into our subconscious and we took it on as a
Yes.
habit and we keep
Yes.
repeating the same habit. So we see this a
Yeah.
lot.
And that's very true. And so what we do is I'm able to bring those to the surface, to the awareness, and actually get rid of them. So they're,
Mm,
I mean, People are like, well, why are you different than a therapist? I'm like, I love therapists because they bring things to the awareness, but the thing is they don't get rid of it.
Mm.
If you don't get rid of it, it's going to be with you forever. Forget
Yeah.
that. I don't
Yeah.
need that.
Yeah.
Right. I'll give you a good one. So my mom, thanks, mom, was like, well, honey, like money doesn't grow on trees. Have you heard that one? Or the more money we have, more trouble we'll have. Yeah. Screw
Yes.
that. Right. Like, mom, I got a few acres of money trees out back. You want a hayride through mine? And isn't paper made of money? Isn't paper made of trees and money made of paper? Like, come on, right?
Yeah.
So learning to reframe those limiting beliefs by clearing things out, and like what it actually does is cognitively change the synapses in your brain because your
Mm.
words have power. And so if you learn to use this, and this is where high achievers excel, if
Yeah.
you learn to use this, then you actually can change the way things show up in your world, like
Mm.
literally.
And I mean, people listening to this have probably heard of things like The Secret, Law of Attraction, or all that sort of stuff.
Mm,
And that actually works because there are universal laws. So manifestation, and I was listening to a podcast the other day, actually, there was a doctor a neuroscientist who's since passed, who was
yeah, I
actually
work a
talking
lot
about,
in the neuroscience and
yeah,
the
he was
quantum field.
talking about a
Yeah,
specific strategy that enables you scientifically to manifest. And it was
yeah,
a process that if you follow a
yeah,
process, you can actually start to do. And it's not the manifestation like people think. It's like the woo woo. I'm just going to put my fingers together, wish upon a bicycle, and all of a sudden it's
yeah,
going to
right.
come. Because you still have to do work. You still got to do stuff.
Yeah.
You got to make shit
Y-
happen.
No, Darren, this is the bottom line. If you don't get into action, nothing will happen.
Mm,
That's it,
yeah.
right? Like, and so getting into action is where I want to get you.
Mm,
And and that is when things can start to change. I've had people call me back, say no to me on a call me back 2 days later and say, I'm ready to go. I don't know what you gave me, but I started doing that and everything started to change. And I'm like in my head, I'm like, well, there's a shocker, right? And so like, but I'm so happy for them because now they're realizing they're not stuck in their life, right? Like, and where
yeah.
they are. That's why in corporate, I work with a lot of VPs. I work with a lot of directors. I do work with some C-suite, and that's more on the team side because they can't get their teams to move.
Yeah.
But directors and VPs, they have it made to C-suite for a reason, and it's
Yeah.
up here. Yeah.
And so when you think about that, the limiting beliefs around that,
Mm,
and this applies for, it could be director of sales, chief revenue
sure.
officers, it could be sales managers. Um, how do you are there specific things, or is there a common thread? I'm not saying is it the one thing, but is there a common thread you see at that level? Because often we hear people say, your capabilities, your techniques, your approach, your attitude, your mindset will give you so much to get you here, but that
Yeah.
potentially could also be the blockage to let you get to the next level, right? So, what are some of the things that like senior executives or sales leaders um, need to be conscious of? Because often they are the preventer. They are the person that places limiting beliefs on their team because of their own thinking.
Yeah, there's really only one thing, and it's really simple actually. And it's because they don't know their level of deserve.
They don't know their level of deserve.
Yeah,
So, talk
what
more
they
about that.
deserve. Yeah, so their level of worth, right?
Okay.
And so because they've been told that they're worth this much and they believe it, right? And so how do they get out of that trap, right? And so again, it's another limiting belief they've been told, right? And so they're stuck in this job where they're like, I can't excel unless I do whatever. And so that belief is not really true. And to raise their level of deserve, they're going to have to step into their power and get rid of what's limiting them. And so then we take a look at that, right?
Mm,
And so some of the questions that are really good that they can ask themselves, and I'm happy to give them here, is like what has been the one thing holding you back,
yeah.
right? And what would your life look like if that changed, right?
Yeah.
And what happened in the past, right? And then the last question, one of the last ones I asked is like, are you content where you are? Because if the
Mm,
answer is yes, we're good. Like,
yeah.
let me know how I can help you in the future. But
Yeah.
it's usually no.
Yeah.
And so that actual no gives them permission to create the change
Yes.
and step into action, but you cannot do it for them. So I design those questions so that they actually convince themselves that they're ready to go.
Mm. And how, I guess, as a business strategist, as a coach, as a mentor, are there are there signals? Do they have to pass some gates to let you know that they're ready, or is it something that evolves? Like, because we're all on a hero's journey, right? So how would you know? Do you see it in the results, or are there some things that you look for that indicates this person now is starting to have a higher level of self-worth? Do you see it in their behavior? Do you
Oh,
see
you
it
mean
in their
as they go through
language?
working with me?
Well, as they go through that, right? Because there'll be people listening to this
Yeah.
and say, right, I'm at a threshold right now. My income level is this. My sales team are only experiencing a current level of performance. We've got this
Hmm.
big gap, and I think we're more than capable of that. But it may be me that's holding it back. In fact, it probably is me holding it back because I've got a
Yeah.
lower level of worth. What are some
Yeah.
of the signals that you're looking for that says, hey, we're making progress here?
Right. So as we go through working together with them, what happens is a lot of the things that limit us have a charge, right? So let's say you can't get your sales team to where you go, you think about it obsessively. And so someone told you that you'll never be a CEO of a company, and
Yeah,
you believe that, right?
yeah,
And so that's got charge for you.
yeah.
So one of the key things that we do is we bring that charge to the awareness and look at it and like literally say, well, I suck as a CEO. I'm never going to make it because I'm not worth it. And then we clear it.
Yeah.
And so what happens as we do those clearings is the charge starts to dissipate and therefore is no more in the subconscious or conscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what happens when that leaves is it creates space.
Mm.
And when that space starts to happen, things start to come in. Like not the oh come in, but physical things. It's like deals start to close, people approach, right? Like people that were treating them bad say, I'm sorry I treated you that way. And they're like, what the hell, Laura? I'm like, this is what
All that
happens.
happens.
I've had that happen, right?
Yeah,
Because they're returning it back to people that gave it to them, right?
yeah,
And like, that's just one thing that we do,
yeah.
right? When we work together. So the things that I notice is that they're more available to the possibilities of what could be. They're starting to close sales. They're starting to build their confidence in who they are. And it starts to ripple out into everything they do and their teams.
Mm.
People are like, what are you doing? Right? What's going on? Right. And all of a sudden these opportunities start to show up for them, right? And they call me up, they're like, Laura, what the hell? I'm like, well, are you going to turn it away or step into it? Right. Well, I'm scared, right? Because they literally they say that in so many words. I'm
Mm.
scared. I'm like, no, don't be scared. I got your back. Like we're going to do it together, right? And that's where you have to be that support that I talked about at the
Yeah,
beginning. Because what they'll do and what they've typically done in the past is backed off because they're
yeah,
like, I don't know. Do I really want this? Right. I'm like, no, you want this.
yeah.
And then once they step in it with that safety and that trust, then actually dynamic change starts to happen super fast. Yeah.
Because they own it. And what we're saying here is potentially would you call it there's almost like an identity shift?
Yeah, actually, I just had one of my clients send me a testimonial because I drive them nuts. I'm like, can you send me a testimonial? And they're like, yeah, of course. And I read what she wrote, and I was just like shocked that she had perceived herself this way. And so this woman who started working with me had no confidence. She was like, no one wants to buy what I have. And she was literally brought up where she was put on Weight Watchers when she was 12 years old.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, like, can you imagine? Like, and
Yeah.
so we got rid of all these issues and all the stuff that was limiting her. Like, she's a beast, right? And she started an international podcast and is generating high ticket sales,
Yeah.
right? She's owning it.
Yeah.
And so these things like, yeah, no, you don't need to own it. It's okay. Right? Like, let's just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think there's too much, like I talked about going on in the world today, there's too much overwhelm for us to manage everything, manage what you can, get rid of what you don't need. Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. And how much of this also is the labeling that we place on ourselves, but also the labeling that other people place on it as well, on us as well. So as an example, back when I was running sales teams, there'd often be people that saying, "Oh, I'm thinking about doing an MBA because I've been told that if I get an MBA, that's a sure sign of I'm smart, but also I'll get promoted. And if I get promoted, that will equal more prestige, more responsibility, more pay, more money. It's all good. So I'm going to go and spend 80 grand on a piece of paper that is not going
I
to
hope you got a
guarantee
hold of that
anything."
person.
But isn't it interesting, right? So you've got to be really
Yeah.
careful of who you listen to and who you
Yeah.
take counsel from as well.
I never tell people what to do. I always ask questions. And so if they say, I don't know, I always say, well, if you could, what would it be? And if
Yeah,
you say the could, it almost gives them permission.
yeah,
And this isn't a technique or anything. It's just me speaking to their subconscious to bring it to
mm,
the awareness, right? And
mm,
oh, well, if I could, then I would do this. And I'm like, so let's do that. Right. And so again, that's again the listening, right? And so it's important to not talk. I mean, I do it still. I have the attention span of a gnat. So I mean, I still interrupt people. But at the beginning of the conversation, I say, look, I may interrupt you. So please know that. And so then I've already gotten their permission, right? And
yeah,
so like it's just there's a lot of things that you can do to excel. If you really want to be a high achiever, you just need to be in the space of being and knowing that what your purpose and alignment is. And that's another piece of what we do, because I think a
mm.
lot of the time we're all just throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what'll stick. And so yeah, it's crazy, right? It's tiring.
Well, it is. And as you were talking, thinking, okay, we got, I work a lot with sales teams, you work with sales teams, you work with organization, you work with C-suite executives. And the training that they typically get in sales is all about the product and all about the service. So they almost become
Correct.
experts at the service. So when they go out and they're talking to prospective customers, is it any wonder that all they can really talk about is the product and the service because that's what they've been indoctrinated with, right? So they come across with this commission breath when people are listening
Yeah,
to
I
them.
like that
They're
commission breath.
hearing about they're
Yeah.
hearing about all these magnificent product features which the customer doesn't care about.
Yeah, no.
Versus if I become a problem solver, if I can actually be vulnerable, if I can build trust, if I can let them talk and ask great questions and tap into their unconscious, then more
Yeah.
times than not, if there is a genuine problem there, the customer's going to
Yeah.
self-select and want to do work with you anyway, without you
Correct.
telling anything about the product.
Yeah. And it's really a conversation. And that's why, like, I spend an hour with people to see if they're a good fit for me and I'm a good fit for them. Because if
Mm,
it's not a two-way street, no one's driving down that street. Right. And really, people just want to be heard. That's
yeah.
really the one sentence it comes down to. And if they're feeling heard and seen, then then there will be trust, like
Yeah.
there will be a conversation. And really, like, you need to bring it from here down into here,
Mm,
like your
yeah.
heart,
Yeah.
because at the end of it, it doesn't matter what the personality is. Everybody connects here, especially after COVID. That whole
Mm,
thing changed, right? And people understand the value of life, and they've got a little bit more grasp on how important it is to be doing things that are aligned with what they want, because you can do everything you want for money, but it's not going to last.
no. And that's the thing. If you're doing it for the transaction, you might get the short-term
Yeah, no.
elixir fix, but it's not going to give you sustainability.
You should always, instead of selling to the room, sell through it. And that way you will always profit, no
Yeah.
matter what, in every area of your life.
So just tell us a bit more about that concept.
So when I talk to people, or well, if someone gets on a call and they want to work with me, it's just understanding their needs,
Mm,
right? And so selling to the room is transactional. Selling through it, creating referrals, creating power partnerships, creating space for them in your community is what people want,
mm,
especially nurturers.
mm.
People who are high action like me, I'm like, my first question is, how do I make money?
Yeah.
Right? That's my personality.
Yeah.
But if the money doesn't make a difference, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
But someone who's more of a blueprint needs a structure. And
Mm,
so someone who's more knowledge based needs information. So if you can understand what people's needs are by actually listening to what they're saying, you're golden, right?
mm,
And it doesn't matter what you think, it's about them. And when I train people in communication, there's 3 steps. understanding themselves, understanding others, and understanding how they're perceived in the world.
Mm.
Because when they get to step number three, they're not attached to the outcomes, right?
Which is a element of emotional intelligence
Correct.
because they detach from the outcome, but they've got a high level of self-awareness, they've got a high level of social awareness, but they
Mhm.
can also more readily regulate the emotions that flow in to now
Yeah.
think about, okay, what's the best way to communicate with this particular individual? What does this person need from me? Is it for me to shut up? Or sometimes it might be
Yeah.
I might have to give the opportunity of the person to make a purchase, as you said before, to get them to make a decision, whatever that decision happens to be, because either way, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, and so it's not about me doing like a pitch slap, right? Like it's just like is I have this. Do you want to hear more about this?
Yeah.
Like giving them the option to say no, giving them the
Mm,
opportunity, right? Like because you've done your job. As soon as you put those words out of your mouth, you've done your job. However they respond, they're going to respond, and that's
mm,
all you cared about in the conversation. The
yeah.
trick, as I said before, is not to be attached to either way.
So no doubt you've spoken with and worked with teams and leaders that perhaps have more of a fixed mindset. And what I mean by that is they might think, well, our market is quite finite. There's only so many customers available to us. So you're talking all this stuff, Laura, about infinite possibilities, doubling, tripling, quadrupling, opening up the kimono and completely changing our business. How much of that is a self-belief or limiting belief based on um, fact versus based on um, fiction in relation to our fixation with a limited number of customers out there? Because there'll be people who are in sales thinking, well, I've only got a certain territory. So and this may be my belief, a lot of people in sales who are given a territory say there's only a certain amount of people I can talk to within that. Therefore, that potentially limits my ability to be successful in that marketplace because I don't have the whole of Australia or the whole of Canada or the whole of North America to deal with. Um, how do we process that?
Okay, well, there's a couple things going on there. So the first would be is like, are you happy in your job? Because it's clearly limiting you. So that would be my first question. And secondly, if you're only limited by the limit you give yourself, not what you've been told.
Yeah.
So what I would do if I had like a limited territory is I'd be looking for partners. I'd be looking for partners to create a different offer
Mm,
with my stuff, right? That can expand me into other markets. So I may sell like, I don't know, like screws or something. But wouldn't I partner with people who make tool sets and sell
mm,
screws? Like, so the possibilities are limitless. You're only limited by the amount of restrictions you put on yourself. And you may think those restrictions are on your job, but let me tell you this. If you go to your upline or your CEO or your whatever, and you say, look, I'm thinking of this partnership. This is what the revenue I think it could generate us.
mm.
And this would be the split. And this is our take on it. But the revenue is going to increase probably 500%. You think they're going to say no to you?
Yeah.
Right.
No, they're not.
So it's that kind of thing. And then the
Mm.
other piece would be like, if you're feeling so limited in your job and you're not going anywhere, aren't you living the hamster wheel? And don't you want to get off that?
Mm. And the question then becomes, how badly do you want it? Is that
Right.
comfort? Is that your comfort zone? Do you
Sure.
just
And that's
talk and keep
okay if they're
going?
good where they are. It's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There's no judgment. And that's the other thing. I don't have judgment about anything
Yeah.
because I've been there. I
Yeah.
mean, I did that commodities. I mean, I get it.
Mm.
And if you need that for more time, then that's fine. Let me know
Mm.
when you get sick of it. I'll be here to support you. And I'm
Yeah.
here to support you now.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Love it. Love it. So, as we sort of bring this to a close, looking forward, how do you see um, how do you see the future of business for you in all the work that you're doing with all the stuff that's happening in the world? COVID's also had a big impact. The way that we now connect, the way that we sell, um, information is so readily available to us, which for many, as we've already sort of talked about, can create a level of overwhelm. And for many people, particularly in sales, one of the key I guess, challenges is to really focus in on what is our key differentiation, what is the value proposition that we have, where do I need to focus my time? Because another challenge for a lot of organizations is different people within the company are placing expectations, particularly on sales leaders, to do all this stuff, and it's not necessarily related to selling the product or generating the revenue or making the money. So, in the work that you're doing and the organizations that you're working with, how are you looking at the rest of 2025 and beyond? Do you see it as there's wonderful opportunities, or there are some things we need to be conscious of?
I both. I love that. So, what I would say to people is, are you aligned with what you're doing? Because if you're not, it's okay.
Mm,
And you'll probably make a good paycheck. But are you really living the life you want to live? Because you're only here for 100 years or so,
mm,
and that's it, right? And so take a look at that. If you are aligned with it, go for it. What more is possible within your sphere would be my question.
mm,
And so if you want to have discover what that is, then get on a call with you or I and like have that conversation.
mm.
And so the other thing that you can look at, which I think a lot of people don't do, is look at the gaps in what they do, the
Yeah,
gaps in their business that they may not be aware of, or the unused opportunities. Because really the way the world is going, especially this year, I've noticed it, is partnerships and collaborations.
yeah.
Because the one-off, like that story of support I told you again, like the one-off is, I don't see it happening, like, because I think as a society, we're moving forward, and we're moving forward in a community-based
Mm,
conversation, not so much an individual conversation where I need to go make $1 million and I'm doing it on my own, because it's
yeah,
just not happening anymore.
yeah,
There's just too much information. There's too much out there. We just
yes,
can't. It's too overwhelming.
yeah.
Yeah.
Love
Yeah.
it, love it. So, Laura, hey, really appreciate you coming on the pod today. It's been a great conversation. People who wanting to learn more about you and connect with you, and maybe even get a call with you to learn more about
Yeah.
what you do. Where's the best place for them to do that?
Yeah. So if you want to book a call with me, you can go to wealthstrategywithlaura.com. Maybe you could post that for me,
Yeah,
Darren. Wealthstrategywithlaura.com. It's an hour call with me. I'll take you through my process and see how I can help you. Regardless, you're going to get tools at the end of that call.
yeah,
And I want the
cool.
best and the most for you. And the thing I want is I want you to take back your power from everyone who's taken little pieces of it so that
Mm,
you own it. And then
yeah,
you will become unstoppable. Trust me.
that's the key.
That's
Unstoppable.
the key. That's it.
Um, Unstoppable, but very humble.
Yes. Humility will get you further than an ego ever will every single day of your life.
Love it. Love it. And also, I would also encourage people to connect with you on LinkedIn as well,
Yeah,
which
please.
I'll put that in the show notes as well. Awesome.
Beautiful.
Hey, thank you so much for jumping on. If there was one last parting pearl of wisdom that's going to come from Laura that you'd like to leave people with, what would that be?
I would just say that you're enough. Stop living up to other people's expectations.
Yeah,
It's okay. Just
yeah.
be who you are and know that you're amazing who you are.
Focus on your being, not just
Yeah,
focus on the doing.
yeah, exactly.
Brilliant.
Great.
Hey,
Thanks for having me.
thank you so much. It's been a great conversation. Enjoy the beautiful Monday in by the lake.
Thanks so much.
Good on you.